All right. Episode 15, Wall Wars. A Tragic Hero. Now, this was sponsored by the Purple Bag of Skittles. And some niggas really just, people really just that distracted by, what I got on. These regular shorts, man. You get what I'm saying? Regular. For 2024. I'm just sitting down. So don't be distracted by that. It's not going to stop us. So, we're going to discuss a few things. We're going to touch a few topics today. Tragedy, success, struggle, renewal of the spirit, mind, and body, God's covenants, and God's bloodline. So, let's get to it. Tragic hero is the main character in a tragedy. They are often virtuous, sympathetic, and have ambitions, but they ultimately meet defeat, suffering, or an untimely end. They may have a fatal flaw that causes them to make poor decisions. Examples of tragic heroes include Sophocles' Oedipus and Creon or Shakespeare's Hamlet. So let's look up a fatal flaw. This is a specific sort of flaw, also known as hamartia, which is possessed by Aristotelian tragic heroes. It is a flaw which causes an otherwise noble or exceptional character to bring about their own downfall and often their eventual death. Tragic or fatal flaw. Like Achilles' heel, or the Achilles heel or something. Let's look up success. The accomplishment of an aim or purpose. There is a thin line between success and failure. Second, archaic. The good or bad outcome of an undertaking. The good or ill success of their maritime enterprises. So, undertaking. A formal pledge or promise to do something. I give an undertaking that we shall proceed with the legislation. A pledge or agreement. The action of undertaking to do something. The knowing undertaking of an obligation. A task that is taken on. An enterprise. The management of funerals as a profession. So the undertaker. Let's look at enterprise. A project or undertaking, typically one that is difficult or requires effort. A joint enterprise between French and Japanese companies. Undertaking, endeavor, venture, pursuit, exercise, exploit, activity, operation, deed, mission, act. Struggle. Make forceful or violent efforts to get free of restraint or constriction. Before she could struggle, he lifted her up. Fight, grapple, wrestle, scuffle, brawl, spar, exchange blows, come to blows, scrap, swedge. A forceful or violent effort to get free of restraint or resist attack. So God's covenants. 5 beautiful covenants in the Bible and what they mean. Let's see. When you hear the word covenant, what do you think of? Some may think it means a contract between God and yourself. You do certain requests to appease God, and in return, God fulfills his obligations for what you have done. The biblical words most often translated covenant are beret, in the Old Testament appearing 280 times, and Deithic in the New Testament at least 33 times. The origin of the Old Testament word has been debated. Some have said it comes from a custom of eating together in Genesis 26:30, 31:54. Others have emphasized the idea of cutting an animal. An animal was cut in half in 1518. Still, others have seen the ideas of perceiving or determining as roots concepts. The preferred meaning of this Old Testament word is bond. A covenant refers to two or more parties bound together. Some may view covenant like a contract where you both sign on the dotted line and get your rewards for doing your part. However, a covenant in God's mindset is more than just each party doing his or her part. A covenant with God is a promise that builds a lasting relationship between the Creator and his creation while redeeming those that were lost back to the Father who loves them. You have a royal grant covenant and a suzerain vassal covenant, representing legal treaties set between kings and their subjects or between two kings that established what the king would do for the subjects and how they were to respond back to his government. A royal grant covenant is an agreement where one person in the covenant makes an unconditional promise to the other, with the other person not having to do anything in return. 5 covenants that God made with his people. The Noahic covenant resembled the royal grant covenant in that God gave Noah his promise to not destroy the earth with the flood again, thus representing an unconditional promise from God to Noah in Genesis 9:11. The flood had caused the end of mankind and life on earth itself outside of Noah's family and the animals gathered in the ark. As many may recall, Noah sent out a dove to see if there was any land, really life, left on the earth, and in time the dove returned to Noah with an olive leaf to signify that the water was receding and plant life had emerged again. Another leader in the book of Genesis, Abraham, symbolizes the next covenant, the Abrahamic covenant. God extended an impossible command to Abraham when he told him to leave all that he knew and follow God to a land he would show him, the land that would eventually be inhabited by Abraham's lineage. Genesis 12:1-3. This covenant is a combination of both types of covenants, as God promises to make Abraham and his lineage a great nation and give them countless blessings, the royal grant. He does ask Abraham to leave his home and follow the Lord to the new land he will give him, which creates the agreement of actions by both parties, the suzerain vassal. Moses' dedicated relationship with God also determined a covenant between him and God, the Mosaic covenant. Seeing the Israelites becoming restless and disrespectful in the wilderness, God gave Moses the law, the 10 Commandments, and wanted Moses to share this with his people in order for them to be governed properly in Exodus 19:5-7. If they responded well to the commandments given by Moses, God would... I thought that was something else on my phone. I was about to be mad. It says God would richly bless them as his chosen people in the suzerain vassal. A man after God's own heart, David established a covenant with God as well. It became the Davidic covenant and stemmed from the Israelites' refusal to, excuse me guys, I'm just really throwing it off. Refusal to follow the 10 Commandments, resulting in several never seeing the promised land. God's pursuit to redeem his people and bring them back into a loving relationship with him inspired his covenant with David. God promises unconditionally the royal grant covenant to ensure King David and his lineage would rule over Israel forever. 2 Samuel 7:8-11. This covenant with King David and his lineage foreshadowed the appointing of the greatest of God's covenant with his people, the new covenant, which ushers in Jesus' sacrificial death on the cross to save all people and reunite them with God. First expressed in Jeremiah 31:31-34, is the reason God chose this form of covenant over others that require action from his people. The Davidic covenant blends with the new covenant as Jesus is a descendant from King David and fulfills the understanding of David's household, Jesus ruling over Israel forever. The new covenant represents God's promise to be his people's God, forgiving their sins and allowing them to choose through their will whether to follow him, royal grant, In return, it is up to his people to make the decision to accept God, to make up their new lives in Christ, and to share with others around them the life-changing knowledge they have learned through Jesus. The good news, which is the word. So we'll touch on the renewal of the spirit, the mind, and the body, and then God's sacred bloodline in episode 16. We'll take a little breather.